With 130 years experience, we produce over 1.3 billion liters annually. We work with quality standards that far exceed statutory requirements. Our milk is not made from milk solids. Ammerlander, real milk, pure and natural. Available at stores nationwide.
Hello and welcome to your news at noon right here on Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Before we get to the top stories, let's get to our front page comment brought to you by Kaieteur News. A positive move by President Ali. At long last, there is a welcome development. President Ali, speaking of the long-delayed, defects-plagued and overpriced Chedi Jagan International Airport expansion project, said, "I will not accept this project." We are heartened that the President is gaining a better understanding of the corruption and swindling which has come to characterize public works projects such as the Chedi Jagan International Airport. These projects are never completed on time and bleed the country through overblown costs and endless tax and duty concessions. We applaud the President's stance. We empathize with his anger and support his rejection of the works done thus far. We hope he extends his attention to investments in the natural resource sectors, where foreign companies are also shortchanging the government and the country. The gouging has gone on far too long. It is time that the government put a stop to these practices and ensure that the country gets value for money for the projects and a fair deal for the country's resources. President Ali must show that he means business. And now for the top stories we are tracking. PPP must not repeat APNU-AFC's mistakes by ignoring advice to renegotiate deal. Coalition wants government to mandate 50% of subcontracts for locals, but refuse to do targets while in office. And government launches investigations into Asphalt plant racket. DHB management distances itself from allegations. Parts of the CJIA expansion, the President Ali did not see, and $95 million allocated to repair and replace ministers' damaged vehicles, says Gail Teixeira. Stay tuned to stay informed.
If something doesn't look right, then there is something wrong. And if you suspect child abuse, then you must report it to the Child Care and Protection Agency. During this time more than ever, we have to be the eyes and ears of abused children across the country. So if you see it, or you know it, or even if you just think it's child abuse, then you must report it to the police or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
And now for the news in detail. In spite of receiving critical advice from regional and international actors on the many ways it could secure maximum value for Guyanese in the Stabroek Block Production Sharing Agreement, the APNU regime, driven by other intentions, chose to do otherwise. The consequence is that Guyana left approximately $55 billion or more on the negotiation table. Even after this became known, there were numerous calls to renegotiate the lopsided deal, but the coalition refused to correct its actions. Now that the PPPC regime is in place, international, regional, and local stakeholders are hopeful that the new government would honor its campaign promise to secure maximum benefits for the oil sector. Specifically reiterating its appeal in its most recent commentary was Dr. Jerry Jailal. The education consultant at the North Carolina State Department of Public Instruction in the U.S. insists that the PPPC administration must not walk the same reckless path as the coalition by failing to renegotiate the unfavorable deal. In other news, the APNU-AFC coalition is now challenging the PPPC administration to set local content targets for the oil and gas sector, something it refused to do while in office. The suggestion was made by AFC's MP David Patterson during his budget address last Thursday. Patterson, who is expected to serve the term as the opposition's shadow oil minister, noted that the government has committed to training Guyanese to take up jobs and contracts in the oil sector. Patterson may have forgotten or is unaware of the fact that it was recommended that the Energy Department set local content targets while the APNU-AFC held office. And moving on, just one day after we broke news of a scam at the state-run asphalt plant at Garden of Eden on the west bank of Demerara, Public Works Minister Juan Edgell has ordered a probe into the allegations. Well-placed sources reveal that contractors working on government projects were up to recently mandated to take their asphalt from the Garden of Eden plant. We were told by a number of persons that contractors would get asphalt at huge discounts under a scam that stretched all the way to the Ministry of Public Works. It would mean that the state would have lost tens of millions of dollars in revenues. Already, operators of privately run asphalt plants have been complaining of little or no business. While the allegations received widespread attention, the management of the Demerara Harbour Bridge Corporation sought to distance itself from these claims. In other news, on Monday, President Irfan Ali toured the troubled multi-billion-dollar expansion of the Chadijagan International Airport. However, it appeared that there were several parts of the airport where the president was not taken. We have accessed photos taken in the departure terminal, an area that was supposed to be torn down or evacuated not far from where persons would check in. It was not a pretty sight. A wall separates it from the refurbished check-in area. It reportedly houses office spaces and are rented to airport operators for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Wires protruded and it was clear that the work is still ongoing. China Harbour Engineering Company, the Chinese contractor in charge of the project, has been hauled in by the president, announcing on Monday that an investigation will be coming. Ali also insisted that Guyana will not be accepting the project as is, and there must be answers given who reduced the scope of works. In other news, claiming that vehicles were returned in rundown conditions by the coalition government, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance Gail Teixeira on Monday disclosed that $95 million has been budgeted to repair and purchase new vehicles for ministers. Teixeira indicated to the National Assembly's Committee of Supply that when the former ministers handed over the vehicles to the new government, it was observed that there were cracked windshields, ripped and stained seats, damaged radios, and even different tires on the automobiles. During her presentation, the minister could not disclose details of the types or models of the vehicles to be procured, nor how much each would cost taxpayers. She maintained, however, that public tendering would be the method utilized to source the vehicles. You are tuned into Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM, and this is your news at noon. Coming up after the break, cops and civilians accused of stealing parts from dead policeman's motorcycle. Wife begs magistrate to give them a chance. And in the gruesome murders of Berbice teens, sixth suspect in custody for Henry Boy's murder, rice farmer's grandson to be laid to rest today. And CSEC and Cape records notable improvement despite pandemic. COVID-19 death rate above 1 per day, and $1.8 billion allocated for COVID-19 assistance to benefit 93,000 households. Stay tuned to stay informed. Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Two police constables who were stationed at the Springlands police station, currently in Berbice, were among 3 persons charged with the offense of simple larceny. They are police constables Edo Khan of Upper Quarantine and Doran Lafleur. The policemen were charged along with 25-year-old Danish Lekaram of number 68 village, Berbice. The policemen were accused of stealing parts off the motorcycle of late policeman Navindra Jordan, which was parked in the Springlands police station compound. They are accused of selling it to Lekaram. They were accused of committing the act between 25th and 27th of June 2020. The parts were valued at $495,000. They appeared before Magistrate Alex Moore in the Springlands Magistrates Court and pleaded not guilty. However, the wife of the late police officer intervened and begged the court to drop the matter since she felt sorry for them and did not want them to lose their jobs. In other news, as the probe continues into the heinous crime which sparked outrage and protest in Guyana, investigators have revealed that a sixth suspect is now in custody. He is being questioned for the murders of Joel and Isaiah Henry of Number 3 Village, West Coast Demerara. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham had confirmed recently that 5 persons were detained. They would have included suspects from the initial stages of the investigation, along with one who was last seen with the boys. However, last evening we were told by police sources that those persons have since been released on station bail. Meanwhile, the rice farmer, who was the first to be arrested in the initial stage of the probe, is preparing to cremate his grandson, 17-year-old Harish Singh, today. Singh was killed days after the cousins' butchered bodies were found. The young man was reportedly found unconscious in the Number 3 Village back dam with multiple chop wounds and other marks of violence. His burnt motorcycle was also found close by. Stay tuned. Coming up next is your COVID-19 update. The number of worldwide coronavirus cases has reached 31,880,980, with deaths at 977,211. Recovery cases has reached 23,476,791. The cases in Guyana has reached 2,437, with 35 new cases. Recovery cases has reached 1,361, with deaths at 67. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, thousands of students in Guyana and across the Caribbean wrote the exams and obtained commendable scores. CXC made this announcement during a virtual ceremony for the results of the July-August 2020 CSEC Cape. According to the Director of Operations Examinations Services Division, Nicole Manning, at the CSEC level, improved performance was recorded in mathematics and English language. COVID-19 is creeping up on Guyana, and the reality is that the country's eagerness to return to normalcy is manifesting itself in real consequences in the lives of the vulnerable. Guyana is well into September, and the death rate for the month has surpassed 1 death per day. When the rate of death is compared to last month, it becomes evident that the death rate is on the increase. From March to June, deaths remained relatively low. However, from then onward is where the action started. 7 deaths were registered between June 22nd and July 22nd. 12 were registered from July 22nd to August 22nd. From August 22nd to yesterday, the Ministry of Health registered 36 more deaths. If this trend continues, Guyana is likely to register 54 deaths in the next 30 days up to October 22nd, almost 2 deaths per day. If that is startling, observe the projection from October to November, 94 deaths, totaling 215 since the pandemic came to Guyana. Making good of their promise to support families who have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, the PPPC administration has budgeted $1.8 billion to supply and distribute hampers to some 93,000 households across Guyana. This and other details were disclosed by Prime Minister Mark Phillips during his presentation to the National Assembly's Committee of Supply on Monday. According to the Prime Minister, his This COVID-19 relief is one that will benefit Guyanese all across Guyana, as he highlighted that an estimated 38,000 households in the hinterlands will also be in receipt of those pre-packaged supplies. And coming from CNN, the U.S. has surpassed 200,000 coronavirus deaths, accounting for around a fifth of all COVID-19 related fatalities recorded worldwide. Many European governments have imposed strict local measures and begun weighing further lockdowns in a bid to halt a second wave of the pandemic. Johnson & Johnson just announced its one-dose vaccine has entered phase 3 of its trials.
And that's the news of the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app.